All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to G.W.R. Gonzo'S Wrestling Room. I'm Chris Gonzo'S, joined by Tony Gonzo'S. How's it going?
Going pretty well.
We're also joined by Marcus Fine. How's it going, Marcus?
Doing good, doing good.
That's what I forgot. Go ahead, Daryl.
Well, we're here for GWR. We're going to be doing this every Monday at 6:30. Hope you guys enjoy it. This week we're going to got a couple of topics and go over a couple of things with Raw, SmackDown, that stuff real quick. But our topics today are going to be Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and the other one is favorite underrated wrestlers. So usually not big stars. We talk to some professional wrestlers that we see at shows, independent wrestlers, and we got some of those lists. And Marcus is going to give some, and Chris and myself are going to give some. I'll start off, if it's okay, with I'm not going to go over everything that happened on the shows. Just real quick, things to look for, especially if you hadn't seen the shows. On Monday Night Raw, the main thing that people need to go watch is the Cody and Paul Heyman promo. It was outstanding. It's probably the best thing of the week. Had a lot of reality, a lot of truth to it. Cody had tears coming out of his eyes. I actually think that Heyman got emotional because I know Billy Ray talked about it on Busted Open, that if anybody knows that Heyman, that if he talks about Dusty Rhodes, he gets emotional. So it was all based on reality and truth. So I thought it was pretty. I know Chris got to see it. What'd you think?
Oh, I thought it was real good.
I thought it was pretty good.
It's probably the best segment out of any of the shows all week.
Yeah, I thought so too. The next thing that really caught my eye was on SmackDown, and it was kind of a several segments that kind of went together. It was with the Bloodline and also involved Paul Heyman, Sami Zayn, and the Usos, and it was a thread throughout the show. I thought it was really well done. It probably made SmackDown the best show of the week for me, just because of how those segments ran together and from the start to the finish. Go to AEW Dynamite. MJF's promo was pretty good. I was telling Chris about that, Marcus, that he did a promo talking about that he was in a car accident and he's such a bad person that his girlfriend was in the passenger seat, and she went out of the car. He moved her into the front seat of the car so she could take the blame. He said that's how big of a bastard that he is, and people believed it so much they started calling the police station.
Okay, I've seen the things on Facebook, the thread stating how the police were called for the promo cut on AEW. So now I know the story.
Yeah, that's what that was. People, I don't know, but
hey, if you get him to do that, you've done your job. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but Bryan Danielson had a match. It might have been the match of the week, right up there with Roosh, who had been with the Ring of Honor, now signed with AEW. That was a real solid match. Then on NXT, another real good wrestling match was JD McDonough versus Carmelo Hayes. It was outstanding. And then the other thing on NXT to look for, it was JC Jane turning on Gigi Dolan, her partner in Toxic Attraction. They kind of did a tribute to the Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty. And instead of through a window, it was through a door. And it was pretty good. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good tribute to that. So that's basically a recap of the shows. We're not going to go through. If people want to, check out those highlights, just something that, they could take a look at.
On SmackDown, I thought they'd done a real good job on the stuff with the Usos and Sami Zayn. And
yeah, they opened the show and had a segment, and then they was in the next segment, had another, maybe a match. It was just ran through just a thread, just all the way through the show.
Wait, I didn't think Jay was going to show up.
Yeah,
I really didn't. I didn't think Jay was going to show up for that tag team match. They done good with that,
and had him come out of the crowd. It was pretty good. So our next thing we was going to talk about was the three favorite, not big stars or mega stars or anything, just underrated wrestlers. And it's okay. I'll go first, and then maybe read some of the others, and then you guys can chime in. If you got more than three that you can think of, that's fine. Also. I went with people that I really liked growing up as a kid. Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer was one of my favorites. He was real big in the late 70s and early, maybe to mid 80s. He was one of my favorite wrestlers. He was reminded me of a small Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, but I always like, and he did have a collegiate background. He really was a pretty good wrestler in reality. The other one was which I talked to Marcus about. I don't know why he was my favorite as a little kid, but Prince Pullins, who wrestled here in Indianapolis, and I think he wrestled in local areas too, AWA and stuff. It was just one of my favorites, even though he didn't win a lot. He was I wouldn't say he was a jobber, but he didn't win a lot of matches. And then my other one was Hacksaw Butch Reed, who's big in the Mid-South area in the late 70s, early 80s. Also made it to WWE as the natural Butch Reed, but was never a big star at that level. But he was one of my favorites also. Chris, you have three?
I was trying to think if I remember who Hacksaw Butch Reed.
You would know
Yeah,
natural. The natural
he
in
dyed
the
his
80s.
hair blonde in the WWE. But he was one half of Doom with Ron Simmons and Woman and
Doom and Ron Simmons.
Okay, that's what I was
Doom.
going to say. Was he the Butch Reed of the Ron
in
Simmons?
Doom. Yeah,
Okay.
I forgot about that.
Okay. Now, yeah, when you put it like that, now I know. Now I know it is.
Yep.
yeah. Then Chris Poland is he was actually Bobby Heenan's first opponent when Bobby Heenan first wrestled.
Really?
That's the claim to fame. So yeah, I've read that somewhere. When Chris Poland was local, he's actually buried in the Marion National Cemetery in Marion, Indiana. And
So he's from the Indiana area.
yeah, and it was in his obit that he was Bobby Heenan's first opponent when Bobby Heenan first wrestled. So
I did have another. I did have another name that I thought of today that I wanted to put down, and I thought he was going to be a big star. But stories I've read that he was hard to work with, bad attitude, and I think that's why he didn't become a big star. But that was Ahmed Johnson in the WWE. I thought at one time they were pushing him big, and I thought, but they said he was kind of reckless in the ring.
He was big people, real big black,
right? Yeah, huge. And I thought they were really pushing him, and then just he couldn't stay healthy. I think he hurt other people. I think he had a bad attitude. I think that's what I've read lately. What was the problem? But
I've heard lately that he's lost all that muscle and but never lost the weight. So I guess he's like 400 pounds now. From what
I heard, I heard he was big.
So he was the Intercontinental Champ there for
a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hey, Chris.
I had Dolph Ziggler. He's always been one of my favorites. I think it's underrated. I think I've always thought he could be a big star in WWE, and he's never really got the push. But I've heard some of that is because he could be hard to deal with, and he does some things to get himself in trouble, I should say, sometimes.
Yeah, I know Billy Ray said that he's the worst thing. He said for your career, the worst thing you can be is a great worker. He said he's probably as good as worker as you can be, and when you're that good of a worker, they're going to use you as that, and you get put in that box if you're a great worker instead of a star. And he said, I know it sounds weird, but he said that is kind of the box he's put in. And the other thing is, he goes to the wrestling ring, he wrestles. He don't watch no wrestling away from TV. He doesn't study the game. I tell you, somebody else is that way too, and I couldn't believe it when he said it. It's Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler does not follow wrestling. It never did. He said he would spend all of his time working on it when he owned his own promotion. That once he was out of the building, he didn't want to think about it, follow it, or anything.
Wow.
Well, I guess I can see that in a way because I mean it's their job and that's what they're doing. So just like I guess like me or you, when we get home from work, we try not to think about whatever we.
Yeah.
I should say I used to because.
Well, did you see where they said people were mad that Dolph wasn't in the Royal Rumble? Because if he had been in the Royal Rumble, it would have been like his 16th year in a row.
Yeah.
And since he wasn't in it, he was there, I guess. He was at the arena. They just didn't put him in. And so that broke that streak of 15, 16 straight Royals. And now that's reset. So
Do you think him trying to imitate Shawn Michaels so much might have hurt him as well?
It could have hurt him a little bit. Actually, if you look at him in the ring, and I know this is going to probably piss some people off, he's probably better than Shawn Michaels overall because of his collegiate ability. I mean, he's not the showman, and he wasn't as good on the mic, but just I know people are gonna say there's no way he's good as Shawn Michaels in the ring, but when you add his other skills from his collegiate, because he was a really great collegiate wrestler.
Oh yeah, he was real good.
He was All American.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Another one I had was Dustin Rhodes. I've always thought Dustin Rhodes has been misused. Not really misused, but underrated. Like I thought he done great as Goldust, even though a lot of people didn't like that character. But
he kind of had to do that to pull away from his dad because he couldn't make it as Dustin Rhodes. So
but he's
he's great in the ring. I
mean, that's what I mean. In the ring, I think he's just awesome. I think he's one that's in my eyes been underrated. And then I had the Big Boss Man.
I thought of him too. He's not on my list, but I was thinking of him too.
He was one of my favorites when I was a kid, and I've always thought he could have been a big star.
You know how his character was such a asshole and everything, especially when he was a good guy every now and then, but such an asshole. They said that he was the nicest man. I've read several wrestlers that he was the nicest person you'd ever want to be around. So just super great, nice person.
And then I had one other one wrote down. I don't know if you could consider him underrated because of the situation that happened, but Owen Hart. I think he would have been a big star if
he would have been.
That wouldn't have happened.
Yep.
But I don't think he gets with that happened. I don't think he gets.
I
don't think people realize how good he really was.
Oh, he was fantastic. I don't know if he would have been a big star. They had him doing the Blue Blazer again.
Well, that's true.
So I don't know if he was going to push him again.
I think he had the ability to be a real big star.
Yeah, he was.
Athletically, he was ahead of his time.
Oh yeah, he was doing stuff that other people weren't doing at that time.
Well, they also said that Owen wouldn't do certain storylines because he didn't want his family seeing him like having an affair with Deborah. That was a storyline at one time.
Yep.
And he didn't want to have to explain to his kids, hey, this isn't really happening. And so they may have backburnered him with the Blue Blazer too, because he wouldn't do a lot of things. So
that's possible.
Yeah, because he was always one of my favorites when I was a kid, which I was a big Bret Hart fan when I was a kid as well. So,
well, see, that I always thought for WrestleMania 10 when it was that was the year that Bret and Lex Luger won the Royal Rumble together.
Yep.
And so they had Bret and Owen, and then they had Luger and Yoko. And so then it would have been Yoko and Bret. Well, I would have thought my personal opinion was when Owen pinned Bret, Owen should have got the title shot.
Yeah.
But and some people say that's one of the best matches that they've ever had was Owen and Bret at WrestleMania 10. So.
Oh yeah. It's one of them up there. It don't get the recognition it probably deserves.
Frankie's in there. Marcus fine.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I had.
Okay, Marcus, who did you have down?
All right. Well, I had. I can't stay at 3. I got like 8. we talked about the other day, Paul Roma. He was a good talent, I feel. Of course, they put him with Hurricane. No, that's not right. Hercules to be Power and Glory. I forgot the WCW where he was with Paul Orndorff as Pretty Wonderful.
Yep.
And there's a story on YouTube, if you look it up, I just watched this week, where he was wrestling the Wonder Kid. I can't think what that kid's name was.
I know who you're talking about. The guy he used to dance around some.
Yeah.
It was from Germany, but I can't think of his name. I can see him, but I can't remember his name.
Alex Wright.
Yep, Alex Wright.
Yeah. And there's a story about where it was a Super Clash 5, and he was in the opener, and he was supposed to do the job for Alex Wright. Well, he did the job for Alex Wright, but if you watch the match, he doesn't sell. I mean, all he did basically was take the pin at the very end. He was supposed to make Alex Wright look good, but and then Paul Roma was with Jim Powers at one time.
Yep.
If you remember that, and that was just a jobber team at the time. I had Al Perez. I don't know if anybody remembers him.
Oh, I
do. Was WCCW. See, a lot of my people come from WCCW. Those guys could have branched out further. I thought Al Perez was like the 80s version of Seth Rollins. Had the look, had the style. He didn't get out of there. Yep. WCCW. So I think he could have gone big. He had the look. He might have been in the NWA. I don't remember.
He was in the NWA for just a little bit, and he was actually in WWE or WWF for just maybe a couple months, but never did anything.
Right. So I thought that he had the look, like I said, he had the Seth Rollins look before Seth Rollins, I thought. But another one, Iceman Parsons. He was another one from DCCW. See, these guys are former heavyweight champions in Texas, but out of Texas, I don't think they got that far. They might have went to the UWF or something, but
yeah,
they didn't make their big names. And I got Terry Taylor on there. Terry Taylor was a very good talent. I think what they did to him with the Red Rooster gimmick ruined him for life.
Yep. That's what they say.
He's a talent agent or something for WWE today.
Yep.
But it was just once they put that, painted his hair red and made him do that.
You remember that, the Red
His
Rooster?
career went down the toilet. I mean, that's all there was. But if you look, Mid-South Wrestling and all, he was a top star.
Yeah, he was a top star there. Even in the NWA, he had some success. UWF had success. Yeah, he was a great wrestler. He was a great technician. Wasn't terrible on the mic either. But yeah, he went to WWF and became the Red Rooster. And
I remember the Red Rooster.
It was pretty much all
he was done. You remember Brian Adidas? That's another one from WCCW.
Yep.
I think I got him over there. He was another heavyweight champion. Had the look, just never made it big. And then I had Jim Powers. That was another one off of with Paul Roman's tag team. I also had Pistol Pez Watley. He was more tag team oriented. He could have gone bigger. I don't think he had the size. I think that was what was holding him back. But he could talk. He could cut a promo.
Yeah, he was part of a tag team. Was pretty successful in the Mid-South. I can't remember the other partner's name. And then he became a bad guy and came up with I don't know where they got this name, Shasta. He became Shasta Watley as a bad guy. Went with Paul Jones at the time, manager Paul Jones. And I remember that. But he had some pretty good matches on TBS on the Superstation. I forget who. It may have even been Flair. Yeah, maybe a world title match. I know he had a big match on TBS and did really well.
So that's who I had.
Okay, well, I'll start off with some of the list. The first person I talked to was Shooting with Shane, and he gave me his. And his three was this guy's in the Hall of Fame, so I'm not real sure if he deserves to be on the list. But he was a great college athlete, football and wrestling. And has also got great sons in the sports, but he had IRS, Mike Rotundo, as one of his underrated guys. But like I said, I'm pretty sure he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is.
So, I mean, I don't know if he would qualify, but that was one of his guys. The other one I thought was a pretty good one, Mabel. If you guys remember, Man on the Mission, and also became Viscera.
Viscera.
And he thought he was underrated, could have did more, deserved more. And then the other one, he's also in the Hall of Fame. Some people don't think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but he was entertaining for the kids and stuff. That's Coco Beware.
I remember Coco.
Yeah, I met Coco. Jason Maples had him one time at Marion one night.
The fans did love him. I mean, but he was never. I don't think he ever had a belt or anything.
Not that I could think of.
But he is in the Hall of Fame. Next, we had Jesse Winchester and Buck Sexton with their list.
The Lances.
Couple of clowns. It was all Lances. First one was Lance Bass. I think he's in a boy band. And then the other one is Lance Storm, which is not a bad pick. Lance Storm was he didn't have a lot of charisma. That was his.
Yeah, but if you remember Lance Storm, wasn't he at WCW and held like all the titles at once and put all the Canadian stickers over every one of them? If I remember right.
I remember that now.
Yeah, he did. He was, of course, with ECW also. Yeah.
But he couldn't kind of pro. He was so bland. He just
kind of like
Storm.
He was even worse than Benoit.
I was gonna say kind of like Malenko.
Yeah, Malenko same way. It's not
Malenko was great in the ring, but he did.
The other one they had was Lance Cade. He was trained by Shawn Michaels and was in a tag team. I think he was even a world champion as a tag team for a little bit. But that was their three.
I have Rogers, if you want me to give those out real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Roger Pettit.
Yeah, Roger Pettit. His was Rick Rude, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Kurt Hennig.
Really? Kurt Hennig?
Yeah.
Oh, Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig. Okay, I was thinking Kurt Angle. Yeah, Kurt Hennig, yes.
I mean, Well, he was an AWA champion.
Yes.
Heavyweight champion, tag team champion. He was the Intercontinental champion. Was undefeated for a long time. I mean, and as a Hall of Famer. But I mean, I could understand. Other people got him on the list. Who was on his list? You said Mr. Perfect.
Bam Bam Bigelow,
Bam Bam,
and Rick Rude.
Yeah, Bam Bam was at a main event with Lawrence Taylor in one of the main events of WrestleMania, either 11 or 12. But and who was the other one you had? He had
Rick Rude.
Yeah, Rick Rude died too soon. That was the problem with him. He was a good U.S. champion, had a good fight with Sting, and then I think he got hurt, and then he had to go to strict management. I think that's why you always see Rick Rude in a suit and tie there at the end. I think he got hurt at the end, so. But he was, if you ever heard his, I don't know if it's Hall of Fame speech or whatever, they say he'd walk into like gyms and the football players would make fun of him, but he could outlift them all.
Yeah.
And he was tough. He had a bad break and got hurt, and of course he passed on too soon. But same with hitting.
He's one, Marcus, to see if because you followed wrestling a lot. I don't think he ever he never was a good guy, was it?
No, I don't remember him ever being a good guy.
Ever been. I think he was a straight.
Rude?
I think he was a heel. I
don't remember him being as a.
If he was, it was really early on and not very
but...
long because I never seen it.
No.
Buck's dad's name.
David.
Yeah, David. He gave me a list, but he didn't write down his name. But I remember because it was right afterward. He had Wilbur Snyder down, which Wilbur was pretty big in his time.
Well, yeah, because him and Bruiser, the one that started WWA in Indianapolis. So
and I know he wrestled AWA too, so he was pretty big. But and plus he was They claim he invented a lot of holds. They claim he invented the abdominal stretch. He was the one that came up with that. He also had Prince Pullings down. Said he was one of his favorites too. And then the other one, I think a lot of this had to do with him just recently passing, was Lanny Poffo.
Yeah, I got thinking about that this week. You're right, Lanny Poffo. Yeah, he could have gone further. It was just he didn't have the charisma that Macho Man had. So.
Yeah, he didn't have the charisma as Macho Man, but he was pretty good. Though.
Yeah, I mean, and the poem stuff, the gimmicky stuff he did.
If you get time, when you get me watching stuff, there's a YouTube shoot interview with Lanny Poffo that he just did recently. You might want to watch that. He's really good to talk and good historian on stuff. So
I'll check it out. The next pro wrestler I talked to was Chris Chaos. He had Dolph Ziggler down. He thought that he's underrated, underused. He also had Mr. Perfect and also had Owen Hart. So we had a couple of the ones that Chris had.
Yeah. Yep.
The next wrestler I talked to was Max Sterling. And he had some interesting ones. He had One Man Gang.
Yeah, the African Dream when he did a key, that was kind of funny. I mean,
I'll be honest with you, I loved it.
Yeah, I did too.
I completely loved the gimmick. Yeah. Him and Slick together was outstanding.
Yeah.
Yep.
He had I don't think they were underrated, but the Blackjacks.
No,
they were pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, they're Hall of Famers and they were pretty great. But and then he also had one. This was a good one, and he was in the shadow of his brother. So it's interesting, and he's also the son of one of the Blackjacks, Kendall Windham.
Yeah, Kendall didn't have the size. Wasn't he like 150 pounds? I mean,
yeah, he had the height. Yeah, he had the height, but he never got bigger like Barry did.
Right.
Barry started off skinny, but Barry got bigger. Kendall never really got the size, and he wasn't bad in the ring, but he just never got the size. Next one that was Zay Gates, and the first one I could choke him, but it ties in with the theme today. He's got Dusty Rhodes. But he probably don't know a lot about Dusty Rhodes. We're talking probably a 20-year-old kid. The other two would be guys that's kind of around today. Leo Rush, and Leo Rush is very talented, but he also can't keep his mouth shut and stay out of trouble. That's kind of his problem.
Is it the cancel culture is getting him, or is it running his mouth to like people in the business and pissing people?
He don't know when to shut up.
Both.
Okay.
And the other one is a guy that's trying to make his way up. And if AEW don't screw it up, is Ricky Starks. He hasn't made it yet, but they're trying to push him. But it's
I wouldn't count on AEW.
Well, with them, it's that start and stop. I mean, it started and it looked really good, and then you may not see him for 6 weeks, and then he's cooled off, and and it's not due to injury or anything. They'll just
they've done the same. They've done that to a lot of guys in AEW. They'll start getting hot, and you won't see them for a while, and then they come back, and it's not the same.
Yeah, they got to start over.
Looks like you have
Mike Lee, Skull Crusher. But I'm not sure what one of these are. I didn't look at the list. I don't know who number 2 is. Oh, I know who it is now. Okay, the number 3 is Owen Hart. He had Owen Hart down on his list. And then next he had Luchasaurus.
I thought it said Luke Savage. That's what I thought it said. I was going to say, damn.
That's what I was having trouble with it, but it's a Luchasaurus.
Okay, Luchasaurus.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
He wrestled in AWA. He was also in that promotion that was on Vice TV. I think it was Vice. No, it may have been another one that it was running like a TV series. It was more Mexican wrestling.
Okay, well that makes sense with that kind of name.
He's really talented. He's a big guy. Can do strange stuff. He can do a lot of flying stuff. He's really good. But another one that I think's been misused in AEW. To be honest,
is that like Lucha Underground? Is that what he?
Yeah, Lucha Underground.
Yeah, my dad was that, or he did. I don't know if he still does it or not. Yeah, so
that was where he first came up at. And then the other one is Bobby Lashley. He feels like he's underused.
Yeah, I agree. They could push him a little harder, but
next up is Jeremy Hadley.
Oh,
and he had some pretty good ones, actually.
I was going to be him 3 times on there.
But no, he didn't. he wasn't a heel that day.
That's true. That's true.
He was a good guy. So
be him, the mask guy, and him.
It'll be him and S.A. Rios Jr.
What was his name with the mask?
S.A. Rios Jr.
Yeah, S.A. Rios Jr.
He had number 3 is Sheldon Benjamin. And I think Sheldon Benjamin's going to be I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I still think he'll be a Hall. But yeah, I agree. They could have done a lot more with him.
Yeah,
Sheldon Benjamin.
That was one Austin had.
Okay, Austin had.
I knew Sheldon Benjamin was one of them.
The next one is Lance Storm. I think we've already had that once before. But Lance Storm, another one that is great in the ring, but he just didn't have a lot of charisma. And this is a good one because he was really good in the in WCW in their lightweight division. And then he went to WWE and got a character and got pretty big, and that's Hurricane Helms.
Yeah, I met him too. He was at Marion. Maples had him 2 times. And he actually had brought the Cruiserweight title because that's when Vince had bought WCW and Hurricane Helms came to Marion and had, if you look at my pictures, you'll see me holding the Cruiserweight belt.
Did we see Hurricane at one of Maple's shows?
I don't think we did.
He was at the one at the theater, the movie theater.
Oh, we didn't go to theater. We went to the little gymnasium type.
In Converse.
Yeah.
A couple shows. Next up, I had Casey Graham Santos. He had some interesting ones. The first one, he had Sanjay Dutt, who wrestled in mostly Impact, if I remember right. Mostly Impact. Now he's an agent and also works as a manager in AEW. Good in the ring, but never really made it big. Next is he was big in WCW at the time. Ultimo Dragon.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And he's fantastic.
I remember Ultimo
fantastic in the ring. I know your brother Jeff. I was one of his favorites growing up. And then Billy Kidman.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, because he was really good in that cruiserweight division in WCW. He was really good and didn't do too bad in WWE, but didn't make it real big there. Next up, I had T.Y. Ice, and he had the Blue Meanie.
Met Blue Meanie at Marion too.
Did you? He had the Blue Meanie down. This one I don't agree with. He had the Miz. I think the Miz is doing pretty well. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's
he'll make a he'll do it.
I think he's kind of even though he don't win a lot of matches anymore, he's a kind of go-to guy, promotion guy. In a way, Contact Cena's place a little bit as far as promotion, going out promoting stuff is the Miz for WWE. And then the first one, I agree, he had some real good stuff in Impact, but he's had a pretty good career in WWE. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer. That's R-Truth.
Yeah, I love R-Truth.
Yep. Oh, I wish they used him more.
I didn't like him before, but once he started doing that 24/7 run, and that's some good stuff. He is funny.
Oh, real funny. And
yeah, he's hilarious.
And then the wrestler I got to talk to was Sage Phillips. He had a guy down, and you may know him. I don't know a lot about this guy. I've heard the name Jimmy Rave. Jimmy Rave.
Man, I've
heard the name, but I can't really remember him. Sanjay was another one he had down that we heard before. And the other one, this is a really good wrestler, and he was in NXT. I think he's a great performer. Timothy Thatcher. I really like him. Really good in the ring. But that's what we got from the wrestlers. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a good round.
We'll talk about our main topic here about Dusty Rhodes, and you guys can chime in whenever you want. One thing I was surprised about when I did some research, that I didn't realize he was first trained by Joe Blanchard. That's Tully's dad.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. That was his first trainer. And then his first real break came when he was in Texas, and Gary Hart, who worked in Texas there for Fritz Von Erich, came upon him in the backstage and talked to him and stuff, and just fell in love with him. And Dusty basically come in to be a jobber, and he talked to Fritz and said, "No, you can't have him lose. You got to have him win. He's going to be a star." And he wrestled Jake the Snake's dad, Grizzly Smith.
Yeah.
And he beat Grizzly Smith and became a big star in Texas after that. And so Gary Hart had, a little bit to do with that, seeing the talent in him and everything. And that's where he got his first real start in the Texas territory. This was something that I read that I was shocked with his top 3 career highlights, in his opinion. Not, what we would necessarily think. This is what his highlights were. The first one of them was I could see this in Madison Square Garden on a horse, on horseback, seeing his wife, his mom, and all of his family, all the celebrities in the arena at Madison Square Garden, and seeing the words "sold out" on the marquee. That's when he was wrestling Superstar Billy Graham.
I was gonna say, because I've seen those matches.
Yep.
Yeah. See, now you remember the other day he was asking about Flair and the title.
Yep.
Well, I think honestly, Dusty could have gone town to town and not have a title.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because he did.
Yeah, he did. He didn't need a title.
Yeah. But yeah, those Billy Graham Dusty Rhodes matches are classics. I mean, honestly, they are because they're so old, but they are classics anyway. So
yeah. The number 2 thing, which was something I never thought about, but I can understand. In 1991, wrestling the Tokyo Dome in front of 60,000 people, with his son Dustin Rhodes being his tag team partner.
Who'd they take on? What, a Jap team? A Japanese team?
I think so. It didn't say in the thing, but he said just being there with his son, in front of 60,000 people. And this was the one that really surprised me. His other one was when Diamond Dallas Page won the WCW Heavyweight Championship, because Dusty was one of his main guys that pushed him and was kind of a coach and mentor to him. And that was his top 3.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. You noticed it wasn't him winning a championship title or any of that stuff like most people would think. You think probably winning your first championship or beating Harley Race or beating Flair.
That's what it was. His first. See, I researched that too. Dusty beat Harley Race for his first belt, and a week later, give it back to Harley. With Dusty as the booker, I heard either that interviews they did with those guys the other day, or made a statement that he'd win the title off Flair in like big major events to send the people home happy. But there was always something that came up that they put the title back on Flair because of a technicality to keep the storyline going and for Dusty to keep the chase going. So you send the people home happy in the arena, but then you keep the storyline going by Flair still being champion. So he didn't, he only held the NWA title like 3 times, and I bet he only have 3 months total. I mean, I'll have to look it up, but he didn't have them very long.
No, it wasn't very long at all. I know one was just a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it wasn't long. This was an opinion I want to get on you guys. This is my opinion, and see if you guys can come up with anything that's better. And you guys might. Is Rhodes and Flair the greatest feud of all time?
For Dusty Rhodes' feud?
I'm thinking maybe period. I mean, where do you think it ranks?
Well, what ranks up there? You're going to have to give me time to think about it. I don't think it's the top. It's the top. It's there.
When you think top, what would you think would be the top? Maybe.
Oh, I don't know, because Flair's had a lot of.
Yeah,
Flair and Steamboats was good.
Those did too.
Yeah.
But the reason
what do you think about that?
The reason I got Rhodes and Flair there is because it was so long. Because let's see here. I got it wrote down here when it's. Yeah, Dusty beat Flair for the world title in 1986. 21-minute steel cage match. Their last singles match was in 1988. And they had all kinds of War Games matches. And Flair's team could never beat Dusty.
All right, well, I got one for you on this. Came up in my feed this week. He actually beat Flair in 83, but he was masked as the Midnight Rider.
Yep.
Because, and then they said he had to relinquish. It's you either take the hood off because it was a loser leave town, so he lost, and then he come back as the Midnight Rider, pinned Flair, but they said, well, you want to keep the belt, you have to pull the mask off, and he wouldn't do it, so he didn't win the title. And that came up this past week, as 40 years ago, I'm guessing like last Thursday or something.
Yeah, but what do you think? Maybe the greatest feud of all time. I know Flair and Dusty's up there, but I mean,
yeah, I don't know. That'd have to be one I'd have to do more research on, because I agree with Marcus. Steamboat and Flair it was a good one.
Well, and Hogan and Piper. I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it, because Hogan and Piper was more of a gimmick look.
Yeah.
Flair and Dusty was more of a scientific feud. Depends on what.
Funk and Flair had a pretty good one.
So they
when you start talking, you got the Von Erichs and the Freebirds.
But then you have the one that changed the business, and Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon.
Some people think that may be the greatest feud of all time.
That helped. I think that really helped.
I wouldn't.
WWE
that wasn't come up
around.
I have to look at some of the Bruno stuff, because Bruno had fights with Stan
Hansen
and there's some classics out there, but to think of the all-time feud, I have to think about that.
Larry Zbyszko broke Bruno's neck, and they had a big feud.
Yeah, and they did that cage match at Shea Stadium.
Yep.
Not Flair, Zbyszko and Bruno. So you have to think about it.
Undertaker and Kane would be a good one.
I knew, because I told you about this, and I don't know if you knew it ahead of time, but and I told Chris about where Dusty Rhodes had booked that angle with the Road Warriors and the metal spike, and
we talked about that last week or whatever you did.
Yeah,
Keith,
drove it into his eye and had blood and stuff on TBS television, and he actually got fired. After he got fired, he went to the WWF.
And then we all know the story that Vince tried to make him look like a fool, and he ended up turning it around on him.
With polka dots,
making him the everyday man or the hardworking man.
This was Vince poking fun at Dusty before he got there. The name for the Ted DiBiase's servant, Virgil, that was a play on going after Dusty Rhodes, because
I've never heard that.
Yeah, Virgil, because that's Dusty Rhodes' real name, Virgil Runner. So that's a call. And then when he was in Virgil went to WCW, what was his name?
They changed him Vincent.
Vincent. And
Yeah.
that was a shot
Oh, that's good. I never heard that.
and that was a shot at Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Yeah.
Now, the night that Sapphire become Dusty Rhodes' manager, that happened in Indianapolis. I was there that night.
Really?
So, yeah, they ran back then. They ran TV. They did like 3 weeks of whatever the Saturday day TV was.
Yeah, Superstars or Wrestling Challenge or whatever.
And so you see Sapphire sitting at ringside, and then a little later, there's Sapphire, and she gets slapped by Slick, or she slaps Slick, and Dusty come out, and then a little bit later, he introduces her as his manager.
Yeah.
And so that was 3 weeks of TV. So,
yeah, matter of fact, I watched the episode. It must be right before she became a manager. He brings her in the ring to dance with him.
right. Well, that was in Indy.
I just watched an episode of that the other night, a couple weeks ago.
And
okay, Chris.
I had Hogan and Mr. Perfect. See, you talked about Mr. Perfect. That was the feud going on at the time. So, yeah, I think Perfect could have gone further on if he had lived. And because once he went to WCW and he was, what was that, redneck whatever, and he come up with that rap. And you remember that?
Yeah.
So, see, once they go back over to WCW, it kind of made him look like.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect and Barry Windham and some other ones. They were the Texas Rednecks.
Yeah, redneck is crap or whatever.
Rap is crap.
Rap is crap. There it is.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I remember that. Okay, I know Marcus is going to know some of these. I don't know if Chris is going to. Here's some of Dusty Rhodes' famous quotes. And this is one of them. I'm a hit maker, the record breaker. I got style and grace, a pretty face. I'll make your back crack and your liver quiver.
Then you can talk about the pork and beans.
Yep, got that one.
Yeah.
I have wined and dined with kings and queens. I've slept in alleys and dined on pork and beans. This was probably a lot of people said this is his most famous one. I'm not sure that I thought it was, but get a dream, hold on to it, and shoot for the sky.
Yeah, well, that because it was the American dream, that probably is what.
Yep. And then this is one I remember. While the boys in the back are laughing and joking, the dream's out back cooking and smoking. Of course, another one's Funky Like a Monkey. Yeah. I know you remember that one. Of course, the Hard Times promo. Some people think that's the greatest of all time. And then the other thing he would say when he would start off, "If you will," that was probably as famous as anything that he said. "If you will." There's some of the famous quotes. And then this was some of the feuds that I had down. Of course, the Four Horsemen. Of course, Ric Flair. He was in. There was 11 War Games matches. He was in 11 of them, and 9 of them were against the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
And then, of course, Ric Flair, like I said before, his first singles match against Flair was 75. He won, like you said, I didn't realize that in 83 he had beat Flair, but didn't take off the mask. But he beat him in 86. And their last singles match was in 88. Was
that in a cage?
I don't know. The last singles match. I do know that they wrestled tag team together in 2001 a couple of times. They were on the same team, like one of them Raw deals where it was like him, Steamboat.
Yeah, see, that's what's Raw got a hold of.
Yeah. Other big feuds he had was, of course, Superstar Billy Graham, Harley Race, Tully Blanchard. Also, Dusty was part of some of the greatest tag teams, the Texas Outlaws, which was before your time. That's 69, 1970.
Dick
Murdoch. Then also the America's team with Magnum TA.
Right.
And
there's another guy that could have made it if he didn't get hurt.
If it would have been that car accident, who some people think that he may have been as big as Flair or Dusty.
Oh yeah, I bet he would have been, because he was on his way up. He's like David Von Erich.
Yeah, they had him as he was going to be the next champion. It was all set.
There's no doubt in that.
And then the next one is the famous tag team, the Superpowers, with him and Nikita Koloff.
Right.
Because Nikita basically took Magnum TA's place.
Now, then wasn't he a tag team with Manny Fernandez at one time too? They held the titles, I thought.
Yep, Manny turned on him. Everybody turned on Dusty.
Yeah, eventually they all turned on him.
Yeah, all turned on him pretty much. Okay, this is a little history stuff. Dusty Rhodes came up with the War Games, Battle Bowl, Lethal Lottery, Bunkhouse Stampedes. And they were all things that was his ideas.
Well, you did have Starcade. He created Starcade too.
Starcade also.
That's on my list.
And I read that they say that Dusty Rhodes from the mid 70s to the mid 1980s was probably the most popular wrestler. The mid 70s to the mid 80s. And that's probably true.
Yeah.
He learned the wrestling business from Eddie Graham, promoter in Florida. That's where he learned the ins and outs. The American Dream was born on 1974 when he turned good and went against his manager Gary Hart and his tag team partner Paxine. They're in Florida.
That's on YouTube if you look it up. I've seen it a few times.
Yep. Let's see. I got out of order. Chris, what was your impressions of Dusty Rhodes?
Oh, I always thought Dusty was one of the best I've seen. He was, and not just in the ring, just all this. If you put in all the stuff he done behind the scenes as well, I don't think a lot of people, especially younger people, maybe my age or younger, realize that he was a booker and he was he was putting those WCW shows together for a long time. And I don't think a lot of people realized. I think people just saw him in the ring and some of his goofy character that he had in WWE a little bit.
Yeah.
And dude was a hell of a lot more than that.
Well, a lot of the stars today learned how to promo because of Dusty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And, well, I was going to get to that because I'll go ahead. And NXT, he became a trainer, and so guys like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, a lot of other ones have nothing but fantastic things to say about Dusty. So they taught him so much about talking and coming up with names, coming up with characters, being yourself, just different things.
He did more than just he didn't really teach them in-ring skills. He taught them more of that promo, character building. You be you, don't be somebody else. So yeah,
he taught him. He was trying to teach him how to get over because moves ain't gonna get you over.
Did you hear that day about Art Anderson? That's what he told him. Did you hear that story?
No.
Art Anderson had a meeting with Dusty Rhodes, and because Dusty was the booker, it was like 1985, and he had him come up there, and Art's sitting in the office. He's waiting. It's like 2 hours, and Art was a big Dusty mark, so he's freaking out because Dusty come out and says, "So, all I have to tell you to do is get over." And Art looks at him and says, "Okay." He says, "That's it. Thank you." And that's all the meeting was. It took him 2 hours, and he said, "Go out there and get over." And Art's like, "Okay."
There's a guy that's probably, I know he's in the Hall of Fame for the 400, but there's another guy that's underrated, Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
Because he was incredible in the ring.
He was a tag team champion. I think he said he had 4 partners. Do you remember who they were?
Yeah, beautiful Bobby Eaton was a tag team.
Yeah.
Tully Blanchard. Ole. There's 3.
Yeah. Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah.
Is what everybody forgets.
Yep, Larry Zbyszko, yep. Because they was part of the Dangerous Alliance.
Yep. Because I remember when he cut that promo and he says, I've been tag team champion with 4 times with 4 different people, and I had to go look it up. And Larry Zbyszko was the one I forgot too. So
the dude that gave Paul Heyman a start, Dusty Rhodes. Heyman snuck in the room to a meeting, and Dusty's running the meeting there at WCW. Heyman's like 18 years old maybe, and he said, "What are you doing?" And Heyman said something. He said, "Okay, you can stay." And that's how he got in. But he was doing stuff that he was like 13. How can you be a 13-year-old and be a photographer at Madison Square Garden?
Well, I know, because if I knew how, I would have been doing it.
he was getting backstage. He was going everywhere, taking pictures, and getting them published for Wrestling Illustrated and stuff.
Yeah,
became friend with Bill Apter and all them guys at 13 years old.
Back when he had hair. That big ass cell phone, because that was part of his dangerous life.
Yeah, dangerous. Yeah, Paulie dangerously. Yeah. How high do you think he ranks up in the managers?
Oh, he's very high. For one, he could talk. And for two, ECW was the third biggest promotion in the country at one time. Ran out of a basement in Philadelphia. I mean, he's got to be up there.
And then and how much impact it had on the business?
Yeah, even now.
Yeah, still.
Roman,
Yeah.
I don't think Roman would be where he's at if it wasn't for Paul Heyman talking for him.
No, that too. And then just the influence AEW in a way, they have money, but the original idea and that's who the owner Khan. That's what he was a big fan of ECW. It wasn't WWE or WCW. He was a big fan of ECW.
Well, I liked ECW too before Vince got it. Then Vince just made a joke out of it. But
that wasn't the original plan. The original plan was to bring it back, and actually wasn't even air on TV. It was going to air. Forget how the original plan. Maybe not YouTube because YouTube went around, but they were going to. There was a way they was going to air it, but it was Vince's son, Shane's idea. It was Shane and Heyman, and then when Vince heard about it and seen what they were doing, well, we'll put that on TV, and they changed it because it was going to be. I mean, they was going to try to bring the regular ECW back.
Yeah, well, they couldn't have, because there wasn't too many TVs that picked that up.
But that's what the original plan wanted to put it on TV. There was I forget how they were going to air it, but there was some way they was going to air it, and they didn't have to worry about those constraints.
Maybe some kind of subscription.
Maybe it's going to be a subscription, pay-per-view.
I remember, was it Impact? Didn't they do a weekly pay-per-view? It was like $9.99 every week. I don't think it was Impact or TNA or.
That may have been them.
I mean, that was a long while back.
Yeah.
And every week it was like $10 to watch it.
That's kind of what that Game Changer Wrestling's doing. It's not every week, but they do a couple shows a month, and they're all on Fight TV, and they're $10, $11, whatever, and that's how they're making it. And they sell. I mean, they don't do big venues; they'll do 1,000 people, but they sell out about everywhere they go.
Oh, yeah. See, speaking of ECW, Dusty wrestled Steve Corino in a storyline.
Well, that's I don't know if that's what got brought up in that promo with Paul Heyman. That what happened was that Dusty, they were broke. Cody said, "My family, so we didn't have nothing." He said, "We were flat." He said Dusty was doing car commercials in Florida so he could keep his car. Not to get paid money, but to keep his car because he owed so far behind those car payments.
And what year was this, or early 70s?
No, this was like 2000.
Oh, wow.
Before he went to ECW. And that's how this promo, you need to watch that promo, I'm telling you. But Heyman called him up and said, look, he said, I've got a thing here. I want you to come in and work with Corino. And he did. And he said, of course, he paid him money. He said it helped. He said, but the biggest thing it gave him his confidence back. He said, because Dusty lost his confidence.
Right.
He said, and Heyman gave him back his confidence, and then he got hooked back up with Hunter and them and did stuff, and it was pretty good. And he said that's why he loved Stephanie and Hunter, because they took good care of his dad.
Right.
Because they had so much respect for him. But yeah, that's basically that promo. That's how it starts out. And seriously, I think Heyman, if he wasn't crying, he was on the verge, and Cody was crying. It was a true.
Yeah, it was real good.
It was really. I mean, the reason it was so good because it was true.
Billy says funny story. Dusty Rhodes and Dan Pastorini did commentary for TNT back to school bash up here in Massachusetts back in '98. I sat behind them. I was a little buzzed and was heckling Dusty and Dan, and they threw a beer in my face.
There's a memory for you.
That'd be a good memory. It's a good story to be able to tell people, hey, that beer thrown in my face by Dusty Rhodes.
And now that's nothing about Dusty. I talked about all the stuff he invented. Not everything that he invented was winners. I mean, when you're that creative and come up with all these ideas, not all of them are going to be home runs.
Yeah. So
he struck out a few times with some of his ideas, but he was that's why when I put him on my Mount Rushmore, I put him on that. because he could talk and I thought he was great in the ring as a showman, but it was all his stuff behind the scenes and all the stuff that he came up with. I mean, because Starrcade, if I remember correctly, Starrcade happened before WrestleMania did.
Yeah, it started in '83.
Yep.
Flair versus Harley. Flair for the gold. They give it away who was going to win because Harley was the champ.
Yeah.
It was a cage match, and that's where they had the cameras above the ring, and you can look down on it. But yeah, it was more, and that was where Piper and Greg Valentine had their chain match.
Dog collar.
Yeah, dog collar. Not ripped one of their ears off. I think it was Piper's.
He busted Piper's eardrum.
So
I mean, it blood.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean,
yeah, but that's why I put Dusty on my. I mean, I know a lot of people don't, but I think he was just influential as anybody. Just as influential as anybody in the wrestling business, in my opinion.
I had a few shades. What did I have? Remember when him and he took on what was Flair and Dusty, and they had Joe Frazier as a referee. You remember that?
Yep, sure do.
And I just watched it the other day, and Joe Frazier called it because Dusty busted his eye. Well, if you watch that close enough, Flair throws Dusty into the ring post. Well, the cameraman stays on Dusty a little too long, and you see Dusty do the deed and cut himself. And then Frazier never went to the ground. He would count the match, but he would never – his knees – he was always squatted. He never did normal referee, but they called that. Do you remember Dusty versus Tully, First Blood?
Oh, yeah. They had some –
no sense because Dusty bled like a pig back then because they let him.
Yeah.
And so they go into a match for First Blood, which is kind of, well, Dusty, why would you do that? You bleed everywhere all the time. So
well, the other thing is guys like Flair and especially Dusty, and right now even Moxley, they get so much scar tissue that they didn't have to cut themselves. They could just let the guy hit him a couple times, and because you wrestled the night before and you've cut yourself, so the next night he could just punch you there, and it's going to bleed.
Yeah, if you look at some of those early 80s, mid 80s, not really the late 80s, but if you go to all those old magazines and look, all the pictures of Flair and Dusty are nothing but bloodfest. They're just covered in it.
Well, most of the magazines, I wouldn't say all of them, but I say a high percentage, probably 50 or 60%, usually have blood on them.
Yeah. Well, then Vince did the no blood, and they kind of did that in WCW, and it's like, well, how do you stop Dusty from bleeding? That's all he ever done. It's like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing right now with AEW. They want to have blood. Last week they had blood first match, blood last match.
Why don't they do blood all the time though?
Yeah, but and the thing of it is not even feuds. It's just a match.
Well, Moxley bleeds every match anymore.
I want to get your opinion on this, Marcus. This happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. Bully Ray was going crazy about it, and I understand why. Even Dave LaGreca, who's the host of Best Open, who's a big AEW mark, he was upset by it. Moxley's wrestling Hangman Adam Page. Hangman threw him into the post outside the ring. The match hadn't started yet. I would assume that's where they planned on him bleeding, but he didn't. He got in the ring. He's still not bleeding. He throws a chair. It hits him. He's still not bleeding. They show the referee talking to Hangman. Well, then you see Moxley crawl over to the corner. He sets in the corner just sets in the corner like this, takes the blade out, and cuts his head in front of everybody.
Wow.
And the camera's on him too. And the camera's on him too. And then Tommy Dreamer was trying to blame the cameraman. They said, how do you blame the cameraman?
Well, no, because the whole arena would see that. Normally they
the whole arena said that. That's what
Joey.
Hey, how's it going, Joey?
That's what Bully Ray was saying. And even LaGreca was, why wouldn't you try to hide that? Why wouldn't you at least?
Yeah. Most of them I see, they always, when they squat down on the opposite side of the camera and you don't see them or they got their head up, you know what they're doing, but that's.
And the other thing is,
you'd have to deliberate, yeah.
A lot of these guys, they said keep the blades in their mouth. How would you keep a blade?
I don't know. When they did the 2020, I don't know if you remember when Barb Walters or no, it was
John Stossel.
And they were talking about keeping the blades in their mouth. I don't know how they do it. I always wondered how Macho Man kept the chain in his tights for 20 minutes before he pulled it out without hurting himself. You'd think that having that set down in your crotch for that long, that I don't know how they did it happen.
Hey, Joey's on here. Joey, you ever kept a blade in your mouth?
He may not tell you that.
I don't see how you. How could you wrestle with a blade in your mouth?
And then they'll go try to find it and try not to swallow it. Yeah, there's a.
It just amazed me. But yeah, Bully Ray was pretty upset.
He wouldn't tell you if he did, but I don't think he would have put it in his mouth. So I agree with him there.
No.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, they were pretty upset by it. And I couldn't understand. They were trying to blame the cameraman. Bully said, "That's not the cameraman's fault."
Well,
said,
Tommy Dreamer was trying to blame production.
Yeah, production. He said, "That's no way production's fault."
No.
Not when you just basically not in the middle of the ring, but right in the corner, and you just pull out the blade and.
See, now I could see Abdullah the Butcher pull that crap, but he would have used a fork or something. But I never would have delivered blade low.
Ooh,
that wouldn't be good.
That would be good.
Oh, why?
I heard that people that cut them down, put them in tissue paper, and put them in their trunks. I'd heard that.
Well, I don't know what the match. It was Dusty Rhodes, and he was taking on the Blackjacks. He kept it in these trunks, right inside the trunks, and he had that long hair at the time. So Blackjacks are beating on his head, and then Dusty's over, or not Dusty, Andre. I meant Andre, and Andre took that hair, and you know what he's doing, but he kept his in his trunk because you learn to see stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Man, that'd be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that would. Shit, you can mess around and really cut somebody up like that. You breaking their back and you just.
Yeah. Well, I know here AEW first started. They had Dustin Rhodes and
hey, how's it going, Kevin?
And Cody in a match, and of course, Dustin started bleeding. And I know in an interview, Dustin said, I don't know how he did it, but he said, I screwed up when I cut myself. And he bled. I mean,
probably went too deep.
Yeah, went too deep, had to have, stitches and stuff. But I mean, yeah, he cut himself way too deep. And I don't know how do you know, unless you got scar tissue built up. I guess it would be a lot easier, I would assume. Because, I've seen pictures of Bruiser Brody. He bled every night.
Yeah, Abdullah the Butcher, his head was all
Butcher, Dusty.
Oh, it's just like I don't know how these guys do these death matches with them light tubes and shit.
No, I don't either.
So I also seen where, Dusty and Flair not only had in-ring fights, they also had outside the ring. Because one always tried to outdo the other. If you ever know the mink coat issue,
mink coat, yep.
They were spending $20,000 to $40,000 in Vegas to buy mink coats to outdo each other. And well, in Vegas it was like 105 degrees, so who the hell's buying mink coats and then wearing them? And they said, well, next thing you know, one's got a Cadillac, the other's got a Cadillac. Yeah, I remember Basher cutting his arm a lot. Cut it. If I remember right, it was like up here, if I remember. Seen that a few times at the Ramada Inn.
What do you think Dusty's greatest feud was? You think it was Flair, or you think it might have
been? For Dusty it was Flair. If those two had, yeah.
It was so long.
By the time Harley Race and Dusty, Harley was on pretty much was about through his peak.
Yeah.
And he kind of passed the torch to Flair. Yeah, I think Flair and Dusty that was his, yeah. Flair's his big man.
The way the business has changed a little bit, do you think if Dusty was around now and was younger, do you think he could be a big star in today's climate?
That's a good question.
You'd have to be in shape. They did say that was another thing I heard. that a lot of people didn't give Dusty credit, but Dusty could go the Broadway with Flair every night, 6-7 nights a week, 50 to 60-minute matches. He could keep his endurance, and
Well, that's what these people were talking about, Kenny Omega being so great, and people, Flair and these guys couldn't. Kenny Omega ain't doing it 7 days a week. Flair did it 7 days a week and was doing it 60 minutes a night.
Well, how do you think Flair and Kenny Omega would do it if Flair was in his prime? Because Flair could do Broadways every single night forever. What kind of match do you think those two would have if Flair was in his good shape? And what about Steamboat? Because Steamboat could go 60 minutes too with no.
Oh, yeah. Well, Barry Windham. He did it with Flair a bunch on the Great American Bash Tour.
Yeah.
They did hour-long matches.
Well, so did Sting there for a while too. So there's
Sting
a lot of guys that they did the Flair and Sting more of a Clash of the Champions, because that was a lot of the fights that were going on for Clash of the Champions was Flair and Sting. But
now, one thing people will say, and I won't say I completely agree with it. They would say that with Flair and then back in the day, there were a lot more rest holds, where Kenny Omega would be a lot more.
Well, I got to agree with that, because you never seen Flair jumping off the top rope all the time, and
a lot more action.
It's more scientific instead of high flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can call it a rest hold, but I still think I'm still more entertained by them rest holds than I am just by all the. If you just want to have a spot fest.
Spot fest is fine, but when you have 5 matches that are all the same,
it's one thing if it's like if it's one a couple matches, but when it's like I watched one match at AEW Rampage Friday night, and it was one of them 6-man tag matches, and it had some of the, it had some good guys, it had Moxley and some of them guys in it. I didn't care for it at all, but all it was just all spots,
finishing holds.
No storytelling, or nothing. And it's like it just wasn't my cup of tea.
And every move is a finisher, but none of them are finishers.
Yeah. No selling finishers. It's like, well,
to me, I think you would agree, Marcus. A big part of wrestling to us is selling.
Yeah.
If you're not selling it at all, it's not believable.
No, that's why you need to watch that Alex Wright versus Paul Roma Super Clash 5. That's the opening bout. So, and Paul Roma's not selling because he's pissed.
Yeah.
And so just watch that. That's
to me, selling and facial expressions to me personally are very important, because it's also part of the story. If you're telling. You can't tell me you're telling the story and they're telling the story with their moves. Well, if you're not selling or having facial expressions, how can there be a story?
Right. I agree.
It's just moves.
No, I agree. And
don't get me wrong, I've seen matches as just moves, even on the independent that are good. I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but I don't think I want to see a whole show of that's all it is.
Right.
For me, it's harder to watch. That's why AEW is not my favorite product. It's just I watch it every week, and there's stuff I like, and there's stuff that I don't care for. But there's enough that keeps me coming back. But there's not enough for me to say, "Hey, this is the best product." It is not for me. It is for some people, and that's fine.
Yeah, I used to watch AEW more when it first started, and I don't watch much of it at all anymore. I've been watching a lot more WWE here lately than I have the last couple of years. I've gotten back into watching it more on Monday nights.
Do you think if Dusty was healthy, he'd still be working NXT?
No, I don't think he'd be a wrestler.
No. I'm talking because he got sick and then he quit working at NXT.
Oh yeah. I bet if he was still healthy, he'd still be
working.
Same guy. Yeah.
Working with a younger talent.
Oh yeah, because he's so good at it. Those guys would beg him to do it for one.
And I mean, it's really probably always known.
Well, he called all those guys his kids. And that's another thing. Part of the promo, Marcus, when you watch it, is that's what Paul Heyman uses against him. He said, "You had, your dad." He said, "But one thing with your dad, you never had. He never trained you. He was your dad." He said. Now, your dad told me before he passed away that you was his favorite son. but that Roman Reigns was the son that he never was the son that he wished he had.
Yeah, I'm sure that was sad.
So yeah, but that's what he used, against him, and it was really good. So you need to check that out.
Well, I will.
I think Elimination Chamber is going to be good.
Yeah, we're going to do a watch along. I think. Well, if Chris is back, if he's feeling up to being able to set up here to the mic,
we'll be down south Saturday, so I'll have to watch it probably.
Speaking of that, how's Kelly doing?
She's doing better. She's they got her full of steroids now. She had another bad episode over the weekend.
Yeah, that's
we had to cancel Saturday, going to Jeffersonville. We was actually in the ER Saturday morning. They finally pumped her full of fluids, give her prednisone, and she's got a real bad cough. Well, it's getting better, but she's better now than she has been in a month, probably.
She's on steroids, Marcus. You better not piss her off. She might
I don't piss her off anyway. She get mean. She might probably they're laughing now because she's in the other room.
Yeah, she might turn into Hawk on you. Incredible Hawk.
Here in a minute, if I all of a sudden I disappear and she's in front of me, you know that she come in and got me. But
Chris seen something the other day I was watching. I forgot about it. I remembered it once I seen it. And he asked me, he was called that. I was watching the old when Hogan won the belt from the Sheik. I watched that whole card when he at Madison Square when he won the belt. Yeah. And when Hogan was introduced at that time, he was introduced as the Incredible Hulk Hogan. And I think it was after that show, either one or two after that, they did away with the Incredible
Hulk.
Well,
you know why they did. I don't know if you know that story. I heard that, of course, it's a story. It's what I've heard. I just read that Marvel was getting rights because they used the Incredible Hulk, and WWE had to pay. See there, I told you, had to pay royalties to Marvel for using that.
Yeah, of course, I'm younger, but yeah, I didn't remember him being called Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, he was called that when Freddie Blassie had him.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep. Well, like I said, a lot of people don't remember Hogan body slammed Andre. I think, if I remember right, 76 at Shea Stadium.
No, that was the 80s. That was the same night. Yeah, if I remember right, that's the same show that Bruno and Zbyszko had.
Was it 80? I thought it was 70s.
It might have been.
You might be right. And I know there was one. I know there was one at Shea Stadium, and I know that he body slammed Andre. Hogan was a bad guy. Andre was the good guy.
There's a YouTube video of that too, because there's a match that Kamala body slammed Andre. Harley Race body slammed. See, Andre been slammed several times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think Stan Hansen, Killer Khan was another one that body slammed Andre at one time. So
Killer Khan was always the guy. I don't know why I always liked him too.
Yeah, he broke Andre's leg, and that's he actually did.
He's thinking it's 82. He might be right.
Yeah, it could be. I thought it was a while back. What's up, Justin?
Oh, Larry Zbyszko, we saw him in Anderson.
Yep, Anderson at Speedway.
I got to see him when I was a kid. I remember that.
Yeah, he was in I've always seen one AWA show live, and he was in the opener, and I couldn't tell you who he took on.
Yeah, we was at AWA at the Anderson Speedway when we seen him.
Yeah, Billy says March 29th, 1987.
No.
Well, that's WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, we're talking.
Before that.
We're talking about a long time before that at Shea Stadium. I'm pretty sure it was Shea. I know it was a stadium.
Yeah, it was. It was Shea, and I still think it might have been that same card. I may just have the year wrong, where Bruno and Zbyszko headlined that cage.
I thought it was the 70s, but 76 could be too early. But it might have been 79. But I think it was 70s. But you could be right. It could have been 80 or 82.
It could have been. I just think it was. I'm pretty sure it was the same card though. But it was a long time ago. I know.
Doing pretty good, Justin. Hope you're doing well.
Now, what show are you going to Saturday?
Triple Crown Wrestling. Going to see Chris Chaos take on Dark Swade, Johnny Swade.
Oh, yeah. Johnny Swade, yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So that's our plan right now. Kelly can hold the cough back, and
Is that Jeffersonville?
Yeah.
Yes.
Worked a show with the living legend about 5 years.
I've heard that Zbyszko is a real cool guy in person. And I was happy back in the day. See, it was back in my day when he won the belt off of Bockwinkel, did he? Or did he take it off Kurt Hennig? I know Kurt Hennig took it off Bockwinkel because Zbyszko handed him a roll of quarters.
Yep.
But I think maybe Zbyszko took it off he might have taken it off Hennig. I don't remember.
See, a lot of these young guys don't remember that Scott Hall was tag team world AEW World Tag Team Champion with Kurt Hennig.
Yep. In fact, I seen Scott Hall. In fact, that's who Zbyszko took on at the Coliseum. Zbyszko and Scott Hall. Now that you mentioned it, I just brought it back. And I didn't even realize it was the same guy because Scott Hall looks so much different when
I don't remember. Do you remember who Zbyszko wrestled when we saw him in Anderson?
I don't.
I think one of the cage match. Didn't they have a cage match?
It was a cage match.
I thought it was a cage match, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I think it was Hennig that Zbyszko beat.
I'm trying to remember what. There was a tag team, and it was Dan Spivey, and Scott Hall, early NWA. I mean, real early, and they had a Starship something, and the other one was Coyote. I think Scott Hall was Coyote, and I think the other one was Starship.
Oh man, I've not heard that.
Yeah, there was a tag team. I'll have to look that up, but yeah,
it must be one of those.
It was very early.
Anybody's.
Yeah, it was very early on in NWA. Well, yeah, because Scott Hall had 2 or 3 different names in NWA.
Yeah, well, just like Kevin Nash. Good Lord, he was Oz, and
Oz was horrible.
Vinny Vegas. And
Vinny Vegas wasn't horrible. I mean, it was okay, but it was a lot better than Oz.
Yeah, he got ready to do his finisher. And
Scott Hall was Diamond Stud.
Yeah, when he was with Diamond Dallas Page.
Yep.
Because it was the Diamond Cutter. Yep. Instead of the Razor's Edge, it was the Diamond Cutter. Then it went on to be the Razor's Edge.
Yep.
Same move.
Yep.
But see, then I didn't even realize that was.
They were called American Starship.
Yeah, American Starship, Eagle. One
They're
was
called Coyote and Eagle.
Yeah, Eagle. He was Coyote, and I think Spivey was Eagle.
Does it say what year that was?
Let me see if I can find it.
Because I sure don't remember that. That sounds like a hokey. You think I remember that?
They were basically gray tights. Or it could be gray, or it could have been.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm not seeing what
year. It could have
year.
been kind of lavender. Oh, that had to be.
They were called Starship, and Hall was Coyote, and Spivey was Eagle.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't want to say what year that was.
Oh, I'll have to look that up. I'm sure there's something on YouTube.
1984.
Yep.
And Jim Crockett Promotions, 1984.
Well, that was before either one of them was real big then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were called the American Starship.
Yeah, that was before. That's when Hall still had his mustache, like he looked in AWA.
Yeah. I have to look that up. It's just like the Blade Runners, Sting and the Ultimate Warrior. If you ever watched some of their early stuff, that stuff's terrible.
Mark, you was right. It was 1980.
1980. Billy said he Googled it. Showdown at Shea, August 22nd, 1980.
That
was on some of those matches was on a Coliseum home video, but I hadn't seen them matches forever.
I think they got some of that on.
No, I did not, Justin. I did not.
You said you didn't like Oz and his rubber mask.
Oh, that was horrible. Man.
That was funny. Kevin Nash didn't get laughed out of the business.
He said Spivey and Sid was a good tag team. Can't remember the name of tag team.
Skyscrapers.
Skyscrapers.
I remember the Skyscrapers.
And then he said who now? Who did he say? Sid and
Spivey.
Yeah, they were originally the Mark Calloway got it.
Yeah, Calloway. Undertaker took his place.
That was I remember with Calloway and
yeah.
The Skyscrapers.
Spivey and Sid had it first.
Well, you know who the manager was?
Teddy Long, wasn't it?
Teddy Long.
No teeth.
Teddy Long.
He was a referee.
Well, you know who Slick's daddy was? Rufus R. Jones.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Either that or Pork Chop Cash, but I think it's Rufus R. Jones. So, Justin, if you're looking on the internet, look that one up. Who's Slick's dad? But I think it was Rufus R. Jones.
Okay, it's been a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys come up with any topics for next week?
I did. Well, since we did singles wrestlers this week, we'll do tag team next week.
Okay.
And it don't necessarily have to be tag teams in Jamaica, just tag teams in general, because there's like the Beverly Brothers was put together. They weren't going anywhere anyway, but they were used to feed the top names. So
one of the Beverly Brothers got a kid that's wrestling NXT now.
Yeah, kind of like glorified jobbers.
One of them I wrote down was some wrestlers that were overrated, since we done underrated.
Okay.
Oh boy, I'll think about that.
Well, like I said the other day, Marcus, and the people ain't gonna like this take. We talked about it a little bit. I don't think Hogan, if he never had the belt, would have been the biggest star.
Yep, Rufus R. Jones. I thought that's who it was, and I just learned that within the last year.
Okay. I didn't know that.
A lot of people did. Yeah.
I don't think if Hogan
those guys was Bushwhackers.
Yeah, the sheep herders. Yep.
They were mean. Those sheep herders when they were. Oh my.
Trish Stratus is gonna be on Raw tonight.
Yeah, that's a rumor. She's gonna be on Raw tonight.
That's what Frankie just messaged.
Yeah, they're setting up a angle. Was going to be Lita, Trish, and Becky against Damage Control at this pay-per-view Saturday.
Wow.
At least that's the rumor. Yeah, the sheep herders were vicious.
What was that guy's name? Jack Victory? Was he their manager?
He at one point, yeah. And I think they even had another guy too. I know Victory was one of them, and then they had another guy also. I can't remember who.
Well, I'll tell you, the sheep herders, like they came to WWE, and then they were more of a gimmick. But boy, when they were in the NWA as the actual sheep herders, they were mean.
They said that they had one of them on. I can't remember which one. It was Luke or Butch on Busted Open, and they said, "What'd you think when you came from the NWA and all them bloody matches and villains?" And Vince told you, "Hey, I want to make you guys baby faces." And he said, "Show me the money."
He said, always been a fan of the Bushwhackers. She's always liked them. So
oh yeah. But my kids, we went to the shows. They loved it. I mean, my two boys, Chris and Jeff, we go to those shows and they come out doing all that. They were favorite.
And there's that
Royal Hall of Fame.
That Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah, they always come out to this, licking each other's heads,
and back out.
Yeah. And look at the wear. They saved the wear and tear on their bodies.
Well,
that gimmick, not bleeding every night, not getting the crap beat out of you.
Yeah, they were curtain jerkers. They were overrated jobbers, basically, once it come to Vince.
Yep. But made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because they sold a lot of merch.
Yeah.
And merch, man, that's what Billy Ray said. Billy Ray said, "Don't understand, man." He said, "There's times you're getting six-figure checks."
Yeah.
Merch.
There's a Greg Valentine shoot interview with him and Brutus Beefcake, the Dream Team. They were going in to talk to Vince to ask for more money, and Vince handed them each $120,000 royalty check. Says, "Oh, before we talk, here's this." And they look, "Well, what do you want to talk to me?" "Oh, well, we don't want to talk to you about anything." And they were pulling $1,000 off royalties. It's like,
yeah,
off those LJN figures that first come out. Yeah, Bobby Jaggers. Yep.
Yeah, Jaggers, and then you had Victory and that Boyd. Yeah.
Met them years ago in Marion at EWF.
So the topics for next week, Chris, you said, what was yours?
Overrated.
Wrestlers you feel, people tune in next week and give us your list. Overrated, and Marcus was doing underrated tag teams.
More like glorified jobbers.
Okay.
So yeah, because they wasn't going like the Beverly Brothers was not ever go anywhere. So
kind of like Romo and
the Russo brothers and
Romo and Powers.
Yeah. And Orient Express, all them guys. Even actually, if you want to get into it, well, we could talk about that next week. But the Rockers were the same way; they didn't hold titles.
Nope, never held a title. Well, they actually did.
Well, I know, but the rope broke. That's not what you're right, where the rope broke, and
Rope
that was
broke.
a Saturday night main event that they taped. And then, yep.
Just the Rockers really.
He didn't like that.
No, the Rockers. I don't think they were glorified. Nope, I never was a fan.
You're not gonna remember this, but Marcus will. My favorite jobbers, and these were jobbers. NWA, the Malky brothers.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. But the Malkies, they were two blonde-haired dudes, skinny as could be, and it seemed like they wrestled the Road Warriors about every week. That's what it seemed like. But of course, it wasn't the Road Warriors every week. But they got the crap beat out of them every week.
And then you go to Jerry Lawler's, the Pretty Young Things. One of them was Coco Beware. Austin.
Yep, Austin Norvell.
Yeah. And then then you could also go with the same, like, Steve Kerr was a fabulous one, was a big deal.
Yeah.
But then he went on to be Skinner, and it's like there was another career breaker.
Yep.
Because how do you go from being a fabulous one to being a guy with a cuts crocodile? I mean,
let me ask you this: which was the better Midnight Express, with Dennis Condrey?
I always liked.
No,
I like Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan. That was because that's more what I remembered.
Yeah, I prefer. I seen both, and then there was another one too before them, Randy Rose. Yeah. I think it's Randy. I know it's Rose, which I thought he was the worst out of all of them. But
I like Beautiful Bobby, Sweet Stan, Jim Cornette.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Angel.
Hi, Angel.
Was at the NWA show I seen was at the convention center. There was attached to the Hoosier Dome, and Cornette pulled up at the Midnight Express out back. Was waiting to get in. Yep, that's my favorite right there. Sweet Stan, Beautiful Bobby.
That's mine too. The rumor is that we're getting the Hall of Fame this year.
They need to.
Yep. That's the rumor.
They had their big feud with who? You remember?
Well, of course, the Rock and Roll Express.
Well, yeah, now I lost the team. Shoot, now I asked you the question. I forgot what their name is. Never mind. I won't ask questions again until I know. I did. I lost that.
Well, you guys got anything else?
I don't.
Well, I tell you, I had fun talking this old school stuff, Marcus.
What's that? Old age. Oh, Kelly says it's old age. That's why I forget stuff. Man, I cannot think. One guy just passed away not too long ago. Fantastics.
Okay. Yeah, they had a good feud with the Fantastics. Yeah.
And one of those guys just passed away within the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
That was another glorified jobber, so I didn't quite remember who it was. So, because they never won the titles, I don't think. Well, but I know they did have a good feud with the Midnight Express. So,
yeah, they did. Yeah. And I'll tell you one, they wasn't jobbers. And let me finish before you guys go crazy. Not the fabulous Freebirds, not the original, the new Freebirds. To me, don't get me wrong, I like Jimmy Garvin, but Jimmy and Michael P.S. Hayes wasn't Gordy and Buddy Roberts.
I like Jimmy Garvin more when he was fighting David Von Erich. Yeah. And see another WCCW. And, here's a wicked one. Him and Steve Regal, not William Regal, but Steve Regal, they're the ones that beat the Road Warriors, and that made no sense. Yep. How do you have the Road Warriors as the top tag team, Roy of the time, lose it to those two squirrely fellas? I mean, it made no sense.
Yeah. I got one that I want to do in a couple weeks. I want to do dream matches.
Oh, that'd be good too.
Like matches like, and that's at least to your knowledge hasn't happened. I've got one. I'll go ahead and say it now. I would love to see Bruiser Brody against Brock Lesnar.
Oh, yeah. In their primes. Everything's got to be in their prime.
In their primes. I would love to. I don't know. You don't probably know a lot about Bruiser Brody. You've seen a little bit. But, I would love to see that. So, stuff like that. That's when we'll do that in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I had another topic for somewhere down the line, like here today, gone tomorrow. Like Outback Jack. He's here, but Whoopi.
Yeah.
And third generation nobodies. There is a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Like Barry O. You know who Barry O is?
Yep.
That's Randy Orton's uncle, Bob Orton's brother, but
Yep.
And Lanny Poffo basically is the other one. He wasn't a third generation, but not necessarily third generation, just related, but nobody.
Well, Briscoe son. Trying to remember the West Briscoe. They thought he was going to make it big. I can't remember if he was Jack or Jerry's son. Can't remember which one. But
Well, you said, Sam Houston. You said him earlier, and that's another one. So
Sam Houston, yep.
So that's another topic I had for sometime down the line.
Well, see, I didn't realize till this year. You may know, but Rockin' Robin is Jake the Snake Robin's sister.
Yep.
I didn't know that till a year ago. And she said that was on purpose. She didn't want nobody to know.
Yeah.
Because he's so great.
The whole family. I mean, it was.
You ever watch? That family's really ate up.
Have you watched that episode about Grizzly Smith?
Yeah.
Oh,
and they're getting ready to start season 4.
Yep.
Seti's one of them. They probably could do 5 episodes.
Heart Punch special.
Heart Punch, yep. Stasiak. Yep.
He was a transitional champ. Lost to Bruiser or beat Bruto and lost to Pedro.
Yep. Yeah, Pedro Morales. A lot of people don't understand. Pedro Morales was huge, but it was more, territorial up there in New York and that. But he showed up Madison Square Garden a lot.
Yeah, he had a big feud with George Steele. There's some pretty good stuff on that too.
Yeah, because Steele was, became a clown. Fan.
Yeah, but not in the early days. He wasn't.
He was
mean.
What would have happened if Hogan never left AWA? And because the plan was they was going to run with Snuka, he was going to be their guy.
Snuka for the W. I don't see it.
Yeah, that was their plan.
Maybe because we know what happened.
Yeah. Now we know what happened, but that was their plan. But then Hogan came in and Snuka got pushed back. But their guy was going to be.
Well, Snuka. I can't see that, but like I said, I don't know.
No, we know all this.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
It'd be a whole different ball game today, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Especially with Snuka getting convicted of murder and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, we could talk hours on this stuff.
I know it.
What if Sheik breaks his leg instead of dropping belt?
Well, that's another story.
The rumor is that Vern Gagne offered him money to break his leg.
Well, Vern didn't want Hogan to go to be in Rocky 3 either. Now, what if he never went on Rocky 3 when Vince wanted Hogan then? I mean, who knows?
Oh, yeah. And the other story is when Jim Ross was in a bunch of NWA meetings. A bunch of promoters had a meeting. He's in the bathroom, and all these promoters in there said, "We need to take care of this problem." And that's what we mean. He said, "Oh." Jim Ross said he put his feet up so nobody knew he was there, and he said they was going to put a hit out on Vince. We'll kill him.
Yeah, because I've heard that because Vince was taking over all the territories.
But what they don't understand, you can't blame these wrestlers because he was offering them more money than any of these territories were going to pay him. Wow. I mean, he took the Junkyard Dog, he took DiBiase, he took Duggan, and many more. But how can you blame these guys? Because a lot of these promoters lie to these guys all the time. I mean, everybody talks about the territories were so happy and great. Not for everybody.
No.
For the big stars, the main stars that got treated well. Other guys, I've heard many stories. Hey, Jim Bob, you're gonna be in a hair versus hair match tonight. What do you mean I'm gonna lose my hair? Well, we'll pay extra $500. He said, okay, I'll do it. And he gets his envelope and it's got $25.
Yeah.
Your hair's gone. Well, I mean,
this is what Billy wrote here. High school matches. Have you ever seen some of the early WWE stuff? They're actually filming at old gyms. Yep. Like Piper and Snooki. When Piper hit Snooki with the coconut?
Yep.
That was in a high school gym.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Look at the background next time.
Okay.
Yeah, pull that up. You can tell. And Miss Elizabeth, I think, was debuted in a high school gym.
That's one of my favorite segments when he hit Snuka with the coconut.
Yeah, look at that, because then they knock the thing down and he goes out one of them side doors. But if you look at the ceiling, you can tell they're in an old gym. They're not in a arena.
That's another one we need to do, the greatest villain of all time. And that's going to be tough.
Yeah, well, that'll be a good discussion.
All right, guys, I think we'll go ahead.
Yeah, because if you don't shut it off, we won't set up.
We'll keep going because me and Marcus could talk this old stuff. Chris is sitting here just learning, but
I've known a lot of it, but there's some of it I don't. Some of the stuff's before I was born.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm learning. I am learning.
I just wish people. And
it's fun. It's fun to see. It's fun to learn
whether you like
about this stuff.
Whether you like the WWE or not, and I know you got YouTube you can use too. But the WWE Network is awesome. You can go back and watch all this stuff.
Well, I do.
And then
I'll pull up YouTube between YouTube and Peacock. Yeah.
Yeah, you can watch this stuff, and it's real wrestling, and real stories, man. That's what this is supposed to be about. I mean, I know I'm preaching to some people that young guys out there don't get it, but.
Well, all right. Well, we appreciate everybody watching. Yep. We'll be back next Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern to talk some more old school wrestling.
Yep. We got another show tonight at 11.
Oh, yeah, we do got another show tonight still. It's 20 after 8 already.
Yeah, we got talking.
And you got what's his face tomorrow, right? David Michael Cole.
David Michael Cole tomorrow at 5.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, because I don't know a lot about him.
Yeah, he's going to talk. I think he's going to talk a little bit about because he does the wrestling. Plus, he he's a promoter as well for New Era. But he also does
the show coming up. So yeah,
and he also does the runs that school. So he's going to talk a little bit about that New Era Wrestling Academy as well. So it should be good.
Hey, how'd you like the interview the other night with G.W.R?
Oh man, I told Chris that's probably one of the best ones I ever heard.
Yeah,
he's got a head on his shoulders.
I thought,
that was fantastic.
I think it's my favorite interview now. It was really good. It was really good. He was really good.
I've got a lot of good feedback from that interview. So
Kelly and I were sitting there just like, man, this is just great. What he's
got a mind on it now. He's got a mind, the way he thinks, and and he was honest. He gave honest answers.
Oh yeah.
Everybody have a good night out there tonight.
I know what you're going to do. You're going to go watch Raw.
I'm going to watch Raw.
I know what you're going to do. But yeah, like he said, we'll be live tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern with GSR GonzoSportsRoom. We'll talk about some Super Bowl and some of the NBA trades and stuff that's going on.
Another thing I'm going to look up too after we do our show, I'm going to look up see the high school gym with Snow.
I'm going to look up Space American Starship or whatever because I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we hope everybody enjoyed the show. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube at GonzoSportsRoom and at the All Sports All Plays Network. Like and follow us Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all GonzoSportsRoom and the All Sports All Plays Network.
Don't forget the topics for next week. I want you guys to get involved. It's Chris.
His is overrated.
Overrated.
Mine's tag teams.
Just tag teams. Or jobber tag teams.
Yeah, well, tag teams that didn't make it big, I guess. So yeah, jobber tag teams.
Okay. I'll be doing some research.
All right. Well, Marcus, we appreciate you joining us, man.
Loved it, man.
Yep.
We won't see you at a wrestling show this weekend, but we'll talk to you. We'll see you on Monday, and then
Warrior Pro.
Hopefully next weekend at Warrior Pro. So.
Yep.
Hope everybody's healthy by then. Hopefully.
Well, I do too. I think we got to get over
Kelly's doing better. I'm recovered from this surgery on Wednesday, and we get back at it.
Yep.
Everybody have a good night.
Yeah, everybody have a great night. We'll see you guys next week.